everyone, it's Clarice. This is Clarice Reads, and I'd like to wish you all a belated Merry Christmas. I hope you're all enjoying the holidays. I know I have. The last few days have been great. I've been spending a lot of time doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, spending quality time with the people that I love, and also participating in a lot of conversations regarding that whole Miss Universe controversy. Because I'm too lazy to do a proper monthly wrap-up for October, November, and December, I'm instead going to just try to do some really quick book reviews right now, as quickly as possible. And since I've read about 40 books the last 3 months, I might as well just get to the reviews. Batman Volume 3, Death of the Family, presents a really creepy Joker, and also got me really interested in hopefully reading more Batman soon because Batman. Sex Criminals Volumes 1 and 2 did not seem like the sort of thing that I would actually personally enjoy, but I ended up really liking it because it has a really cool concept, really interesting plot, and I just could not stop reading it. The Wake had me really intrigued at the beginning, but as the series went on, it kind of just went downhill for me. I don't know, by the end of it, I ended up really disappointed, which is a shame. The Inhumans was a Marvel comic that presented this really interesting society, but in spite of his name, actually I feel gave a lot of insight into humanity. A Dance with Dragons was a book that I was really happy to finish because it meant that I was finally caught up on this series, but now I'm also really sad that I have to wait with everyone else for the next book, whenever the hell that's gonna come out. Uncanny X-Men Volume 4 vs. S.H.I.E.L.D. was good, but it didn't really stand out. I don't really have much to say about it. Y the Last Man Deluxe Edition Volume 5 was the final volume of the Y the Last Man series, which is now one of my favorite comic book series of all time, and this book in particular actually made me cry. I'm not even joking. I felt kind of lost at the beginning of the Infinity event for Marvel Comics because I felt like I was being dropped into the middle of a story with all these characters that were not familiar to me. But eventually, when I got more into it, it did end up being pretty interesting. The Absolute Sandman Volume 1 was a wonderfully dark and imaginative comic book series that made use of a lot of mythology and history in its stories, which is great. And it's written by Neil Gaiman, which is also great. Black Science Volumes 1, 2, and 3 are part of a comic book series following Dimensionauts, which travel alternate dimensions, which is really cool, but it got me confused at times and kind of took me out of the story. By the end of it though, I just couldn't wait to continue reading this comic book series. The Way of Kings is the first book in an epic fantasy series by my favorite author, Brandon Sanderson, and even though it definitely felt like a first book with the world building and the characters, which are both wonderful by the way, I really look forward to continuing on with this series, and I have a feeling this is going to end up being one of my favorites. The Wicked and the Divine is a beautiful comic book series with a really interesting plot and concept, and now I'm kind of sad that I don't have the second volume yet. I really need to get around to buying that soon. Deadpool Volume 1, Dead Presidents wasn't by any means my favorite comic, but it was still really fun. It was hilarious, and it's Deadpool, and Deadpool is awesome. Cable and Deadpool Volume 3 was that random middle comic in the Cable and Deadpool series that I wasn't able to read for whatever reason, so now I'm glad that I finally read all of the comics in the series. Miss Marvel Volume 1, No Normal, is a book that's been really hyped on BookTube, and I understand why. While it isn't one of my favorites, I still see why everyone else loves it, and I'm really glad that this is a comic book that exists. Invincible Volumes 1 and 2 were really interesting reads because it was nice being able to read about a comic book hero that wasn't under Marvel or DC. And while I'm not completely sold on the series yet, I hear Volume 3 is where everything changes, so I'm really looking forward to that. Descender Volume 1 was a comic that I enjoyed so much more than I expected to. It's sci-fi and it has this really interesting premise, and I love the art in here as well. What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20 was a book that my dad gave me this year when I turned, well, 20. But it's also a book that taught me not to be bound by imaginary limitations that I put on myself. Star Wars Shattered Empire was fun because it was Star Wars, but was also great because it had wonderful art and followed a character that wasn't one of the main characters, which was kind of refreshing. Rat Queens Volumes 1 and 2 are part of a comic series that's super fun, action-packed, does not follow your usual heroines. They aren't just damsels in distress that are just super innocent. They're definitely unique. And even though it's super fun, this is also a comic series that had a lot of layers to it, which I loved. Light is a book from the Philippines that doesn't actually have any words in it. It just tells this whole wonderful adventure through pictures alone, and I loved it. It's just a beautiful book overall. Survivor, as with all the other Polinic books I've read, was quotable, satirical, and presented this kind of twisted version of our actual reality, and really, really made me think. Kingdom Come is one of those DC comics everyone tells you need to read. It was super epic and with beautiful art by Alex Ross, and I'm so glad I've read it and that I also own it. Eastern Standard Tribe didn't really wow me, but as a science fiction book, it did present some really cool concepts and ideas, which I really appreciated. The Absolute Sandman Volume 2 was just as dark and imaginative as the first volume, though I think I enjoyed this even more than that. I feel that I actually really enjoyed every single one of the 19 issues in this massive hunk of a book, which is crazy. I love this series. The Private Eye Volumes 1 and 2 are in this comic book series that really surprised me. The concept and futuristic setting are so interesting, and also it just was so hard to put down, so hard to stop reading. I really enjoyed this. Nosferatu was a dark and twisted book with some really unique characters and a plot that kept me guessing. A Christmas Carol is a book I finally got around to reading today, and I can tell that it's a classic for very good reason. Dickens' writing is pretty great, and I hope to read more of his work soon. The Chronicles of Narnia is a series that made me feel really nostalgic while reading it, even though I'd never read it before, which is weird. But even though it's not my favorite series ever by any means, there were still times wherein the allegory and the ideas presented just really made you think, made me have to put the book down for a while and just be alone in my thoughts before I could continue reading it, which is always good. So those are all the books I read in October, November, and December. That was kind of tiring. What are some really good books that you've read recently? Feel free to tell me about it in the comment section down below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!